Hi, it's Kim from the Shamrock Quilt Studio, and I've got a short video for you today on Blue Star. A little bit of an update about some additions I made and then some final thoughts on this quilt. Join us and we'll get to it. And welcome back to the Shamrock Quilt Studio. Hi, it's Kim from the Shamrock Quilt Studio. Thank you for joining us today. I wanted to take just a little bit of time to talk about Blue Star. We've been working on this machine-pieced quilt for a little while now, and we're just about to wrap up the piecing of it. The last video we covered adding on a white border with small blue cornerstones. And this would be a great place to stop. But when I fitted the quilt on the top of a queen size bed, what I realized was the drop on the sides was very little. We are at about 70 inches, I think. Of course, we've not put the binding on yet. But I think to be effective as a bed quilt, it's got to cover at least all of the top and maybe a couple of inches down the side. Even that's kind of skimpy, but at least you could use it as a covering. Let's say this one, you wanted to put it on top of a white quilt or on top of fitted white sheets. That would be very attractive. And as long as you can cover the top and at least have it come over the sides a bit, I think you're in pretty good shape. It's more of a decorative quilt in that regard, or maybe you want to fold it at the end of the bed. The other thing you could use it at that size is you could use it as an inner quilt. So it may be underneath your decorative topping quilt or your decorative bedspread, and you can have this for warmth. So what I've decided to do is add one more border, and this border is going to be blue. And I cut 3-inch blue strips with the fabric, and I calculated that we're going to need somewhere between 7 and 8, probably closer to 8. So I have 7 full size and then 1 partial strip quilt, and I may need to go back and cut one more. And today is the day that I'm going to be sewing these on. I haven't gotten to it yet, but I did want to give you kind of a sneak peek at what that's going to look like. So I've pinned it on here in this corner, and you can see that that kind of frames the whole thing in just a little nicer. And I think that's going to be a great addition to this quilt. If you're looking for a quilt that's bigger, then I would recommend that you cut these strips more than 3 inches. And golly, you could do this really as wide as you wanted to. You could put 10-inch strips here in the corner. It just depends on how big you want that finished quilt. Now, once the strips are put on, we're going to be just about at 72 inches is my rough calculation, just kind of stretching it out here on the board and measuring that. So take that as your guide. I think that when you get yours together, you can measure it and see how big you want that final strip to be. This particular size, I think, is a little large for a lap quilt, but it would be perfect for taking a nap or snuggling up maybe with your kid on the bed, see that they get a nap. It would make a really large wall hanging if you've got the room for that. I do have one on the wall over here that is a little bit bigger than this one actually. So that is an option as well. Now, that being said, like I said, I've cut the strips that should give me this 3-inch border all around. And I'm just going to sit that there so we can keep a look at that. And then I want to talk about fabric. And I want to review for you what I started with and what I have left, so you have a good idea of how much fabric I used in this project. And as you recall along the way, we talked about that I didn't cut all the pieces in the beginning because it kind of was a design that evolved, and what I had as a starting point was not what I was going to create. I changed that plain block to be something more unique for me. But on this quilt, I started out with, and let me make sure I have this right, 4 yards of the white. And after this, this is what I have left. And I will tell you exactly what it is. We have 25 inches of a contiguous piece of fabric, or continuous piece of fabric. Plus, we have a couple of strips that are 3 inches wide that along the way were cut but not used. I don't know if they were overcut, or maybe we made a change, or maybe there was a flaw in the way they were cut. I'm not sure. But not a whole lot. We came pretty close to that. And the thing about white fabric is, if you've got a project that you want to start, it's a great way to use up a little bit of extra fabric that you have left over. If you like white on your quilts, I don't think you can go wrong with buying a little extra. Then on the other hand, I was thinking when I bought this that we'd be using more blue fabric, because the quilt in the magazine I used for inspiration did have more of the color fabric stated for what you would need than the white, but with the changes we made, we used more of the white than the blue. I started out with 5 yards of this fabric, and I want to tell you how much I have left, because you're not going to need 5 yards. It goes on and on. So give me just a second and I will measure this. There's 1 yard. 2 yards. Almost 3 yards left. So it only took about 2 yards of the blue. So almost 3 of the white, 2 of the blue. And I think that's a pretty good estimate. If you decided to go with a bigger border, if I decided to go with a bigger border, I've got plenty of fabric here. And I will say that I am happy that I bought more fabric, because if something had happened to this, I don't know that you would be able to go back to the store and match it exactly. And when you're making a quilt that's only 2 fabrics, you want to make sure that you've got enough. If you're making something that's got a lot of fabrics and a lot of color and pattern to keep your eye busy, you can make those small adjustments where it doesn't quite match, but as long as you had one whole star and the other one was just a slightly off, you probably wouldn't notice it. But in this, you would. So I would caution you about that. So that's where we are. 2 yards of the blue, is that what I said? And 3 yards of the white. And roughly, and that would get you what you needed to make this quilt. We did all straight lines. We did all 1/4 inch seams in this. The techniques remain the same through the whole quilt. If you're looking for a beginner project with a big bang, I think this is the one for you. And if you wanted to make it smaller to be for a child or something you use as a lap quilt or just an accent or wall hanging, you wouldn't even need that much fabric. So I think at this point we've kind of come to the end of what we're going to do with this project, and we're going to wrap it up. I'm going to try to get this quilted and put a binding on it, and then in one of our wrap-up shows I will be showing this, but right now I've got quite a bit of backlog for quilting, so it probably is going to be a while. Anyway, I have really enjoyed this project. I've enjoyed the fact that you've come along with me to experience it as well. The questions have been great. The comments have been great. I am very thankful for everyone else out there watching this video. If you like our videos, give us a thumbs up and be sure to subscribe. And if you'd like to see how this was done, or you missed any of the videos along the way, go back and pick up the playlist for Blue Star, and you'll see every one of the videos that was done in conjunction with this project. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next week at the Shamrock Quilt Studio.